At number 10, read the room. A police officer was celebrating his retirement at a bar in Woodlawn, Maryland in September of 2017 with many of his colleagues in attendance when two men entered the establishment and attempted to pull off an armed robbery. The wannabe thieves approached the bartender at the counter and demanded cash from the register. Once they got what they wanted, they both tried to flee the scene. However, considering the bar was filled with off-duty police officers, they didn't get too far. Three of the cops attending the retirement party chased after the men and identified themselves as officers. They demanded that the suspects identify themselves, but the pair continued to run. Then one of the men pulled out what looked like a gun up from his waistband, prompting the trio of cops to tackle him and his co-conspirator to the ground. The weapon was later determined to be a pellet gun. 21-year-old Joseph McInnes III and 22-year-old Tyree McCoy were charged with armed robbery, theft, and other offenses related to the crime. According to an arrest report, one of the tackling officers repeatedly punched McCoy in the face and head with a closed fist, but he allegedly continued to resist arrest. The encounter was captured by a surveillance camera outside the bar, and only one of the officers involved in the incident had a gun. Despite this, the suspects received numerous visible injuries, prompting an investigation into the officers' use of force. Both McInnes and McCoy appeared to have eye wounds in their booking photos, which compelled police spokesman Corporal Sean Vincent to make a statement. He explained that it's standard protocol to enact an administrative review in any situation like this, but at the moment, the outcome of the matter is unclear. Number 9, a botched escape. In early 2020, a Montgomery County, Ohio woman named Jessica Boomershine and a man named Billy Joe Farah met an 85-year-old man at a casino and decided to kidnap him. They broke into the man's home and stole a gun, then fired a round into the senior citizen's bedroom. The criminal couple then abducted the elderly gentleman and forced him to give up his ATM PIN number at gunpoint. They then withdrew money from the victim's bank account before shoving him into the trunk of the vehicle. After they got what they wanted, they fled the scene, leaving the man trapped. The victim managed to find and pull the emergency release lever inside the trunk and freed himself. He sought help from employees at a nearby waste management facility who noticed that he was distressed and in need. Police soon captured Boomershine and Farah and took the pair into custody. While waiting to be booked and processed, Boomershine attempted to escape through the ceiling. However, the ceiling failed to hold under her weight, sending her crashing back down to the floor. According to prosecutors, while the suspect was left uninjured, she reportedly caused significant damage to the ceiling. Boomershine pleaded guilty to a plethora of charges, including aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, felonious assault, kidnapping, grand theft of a motor vehicle, grand theft of a firearm, and much more. She was given a 25 to 30-year prison sentence as part of a plea deal, which dramatically reduced the amount of time she would have been facing otherwise. And while the 43-year-old may not see freedom anytime soon, the deal ensured that she will at some point be released and have the opportunity to spend her elderly years with her family. 35-year-old Farah, on the other hand, was ordered to serve 55 to 60 years behind bars, which may very well end up being the rest of his life. At number 8, employment-seeking fugitive. A fugitive that was wanted for fraud in New Jersey made the job of finding her extremely easy when she applied for a position with a law enforcement agency in 2022. 27-year-old Zaima Johnson, a former postal worker from Jersey City, was wanted in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, for failing to appear in court. She also had 10 bench warrants for the same issue after she accrued several traffic tickets in Jersey City when she applied to work as a security guard at the Hudson County Sheriff's Office. After confirming that the woman's warrants were valid, the agency called her into the station and she was under the impression that she was about to interview for the job. Instead, she was taken into custody. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office told the press that while they were searching Johnson, they found 2 credit cards that they believe were stolen. In addition to the criminal allegations she already faced, authorities tacked on a credit card theft charge. The U.S. Postal Investigation Service also reportedly launched an investigation due to Johnson's previous employment with the agency. Unfortunately for Johnson, an employment opportunity turned into a world of legal problems that were just waiting to catch up with her. Number 7. A challenge accepted. When police in Gwent County, Wales, posted a notice online in search of a criminal on the run named Logan James in early 2015, he responded with a smart aleck comment stating, "Haha, catch me if you can." According to the social media post, the 19-year-old had violated the conditions of his release from jail after being convicted of a knife attack. He had been out for nearly a week after serving an 8-month sentence, but failed to show up for his required probation meetings. Shortly after posting the comment online, James bragged to a local media outlet that law enforcement wouldn't be able to catch him. In his own words, he said, "I won't let them." James even put a timeline on how long he thought he'd be able to evade law enforcement, stating that he'd be on the run for at least a month or 2. He told the news agency that he was staying near his home but had managed to avoid any run-ins with the cops who were looking for him. But the joke was on the suspect, as it turned out. Police accepted his challenge and caught up to him rather quickly, and he was soon back behind bars. Number 6. Bird smuggler. A 26-year-old Georgetown, Guyana native arrived at John F. Kennedy Airport in Queens one day in 2021 with plans to proceed onward to New Jersey. However, he was stopped by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officers who found over 24 live finches hidden inside hair curlers. The exotic birds were discovered during a luggage search, and it was enough for authorities to stop the man in his tracks and send him right back to Guyana. The wildlife smuggler wasn't criminally charged, but he was forced to pay a $300 fine for the inconvenience. In the meantime, the birds were quarantined and turned over to the U.S. Department of Agriculture Veterinary Services. This certainly wasn't the first time someone from Guyana got caught trying to smuggle birds into the United States. In 2018, another man tried sneaking 70 finches into the country through JFK Airport and was similarly caught by Customs and Border Patrol. Authorities take bird smuggling seriously due to the risk of avian flu, especially now that we're in an era where we've seen firsthand the effects of what a rapidly spreading virus can do thanks to COVID-19. Some experts suspect that the pandemic started when the virus made the jump from an animal to its first human host at an exotic market. One thing's for sure, while the risk of disease has always been a concern, officials are especially on high alert now, and it's a good idea to make sure that your pets come from an approved source. Around the time the smuggler whose birds were crammed into hair curlers was busted, a new strain of avian flu had recently been discovered, one which experts predicted had a high probability of transmitting to humans. It's no wonder that while these types of arrests come across to most of us as strange and perhaps even funny, it's no joke to the authorities. Number 5. Facebook confession. A 32-year-old British man named Andrew Hennels posted a Facebook comment stating, "Doing Tesco over," just 15 minutes before police caught him with money stolen from Tesco in Norfolk, England in 2015. When officers apprehended the suspect, they found £410 and a knife taken from the department store. In what Sergeant Pete Jessup described as a bizarre and unusual case, the theft was reported around the same time Hennels allegedly stole an elderly couple's car and fled to a nearby pub. According to Jessup, the Facebook comment made it a lot easier to secure a guilty plea from the suspect in court. He told the BBC that Hennels' social media content helped investigators confirm what they already knew. Citing the defendant's actions as evidence of him being a danger to the public, the judge sentenced Hennels to 4 years in prison for his brazen crime spree, plus an additional 4 years of supervised release. Number 4. Shoplifting with a cop. During the 2018 holiday season, several Michigan police departments hosted a Shop with a Cop event at a Target store in Bloomfield Township. During the event, which is meant to help disadvantaged kids as well as strengthen ties between police officers and the communities they serve, around 15 cops helped school children choose gifts for their family members. However, they were distracted from their charitable duties when they noticed 2 women allegedly loading a shopping cart with around $1,900 worth of electronics. Some officers were just 20 feet away when they saw the suspects leave the store without paying. Luckily, they caught up with the pair before they could load the goods into their vehicle and leave. 18-year-old Dana Johnson and 40-year-old Kiana Wilson were charged with felony retail fraud. According to Bloomfield Township Police Sergeant Dan Brown, the women were aware that the police were in the store at the time, and he told local station WXYZ that Johnson complimented an officer for his generosity. In a Facebook post about the incident, the Kego Harbor Police Department wrote, "Don't take what is not yours. It's a simple rule that everyone should abide by, and the world would be a better place." Number 3. The Goldilocks Intruder. Martin Holtby and Pat Dyson were shocked when they returned home to Lancashire, England from vacation and found an intruder asleep in their bed. The unwelcome guest had helped himself to their washer and dryer and had cleaned all of his dishes after eating inside the house. Dyson told the BBC that the discovery reminded her of the tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. She described how she and Holtby realized something was wrong when they entered the house and noticed their mail and newspapers had been moved away from the delivery slot. The couple was also surprised to find that their house was noticeably more neat and tidy than the condition they had left it in. What's even more alarming is that their window cleaner had dropped by during their absence and noticed the young man in the house, but assumed he was their grandson. Holtby said that he and Dyson didn't feel threatened by the intruder and instead felt somewhat sympathetic. However, they were also shocked by the break-in and knew they had to take control of the situation. The couple called the police, and the burglar was fast asleep when officers arrived. He was identified as 28-year-old Lucas Chojnowski, a Polish immigrant who had been living in the UK for a number of years. The suspect was fined a few $100s and given a 2-year conditional discharge for the relatively harmless but unlawful incident. Number 2. Hidden in the back. Police in Golden Meadow, Louisiana were in the process of arresting 24-year-old Justin Savoie in 2019 when they found a loaded .25 caliber pistol hidden in his buttocks. It all started when officers responded to a call about suspicious activity at Savoie's home that he'd been sharing with a woman. During an initial search, they discovered a handgun, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia, as well as multiple guns inside the man's truck. But it wasn't until Savoie was taken into custody and strip-searched that they found the additional surprise hidden between his cheeks. Considering the concealed weapon's size, which was 4.5 inches long with a 2.5-inch barrel, it's surprising that the suspect found room for it in his rear end. Savoie received a 5-year suspended sentence but was spared from prison time. Instead, he was ordered to serve 90 days in jail and 3 years of probation. While under supervision, he's banned from visiting bars or lounges, owning or possessing firearms, and he's not allowed to indulge in excessive use of alcohol or drugs. And at number 1, Edward Scissorhands. In a strange series of crimes, a vandal dubbed Edward Scissorhands has been seen snipping branches off property owners' trees late at night in Fort Worth, Texas. The bizarre, uninvited landscaping started in late 2022, and at least a dozen residence trees were trimmed, leaving both homeowners and law enforcement stumped. Several of the crimes were caught on camera, yet the pruning perpetrator's identity remains a mystery. Local resident Ashley Toman told CBS News that sometimes the suspect snips just a few branches, but other times he lobs off an excessive amount. In many instances, he was filmed carrying out his weird crimes at around 3 o'clock in the morning, accompanied by his unleashed dog. He could even be seen stepping back to admire his work from a distance. But the people whose trees were violated were less than impressed with the free landscaping work and told the press that they just wanted the unsolicited services to stop. Homeowner Jerry Balkenbush explained how he thought there had been a storm the night before because of how many branches had gone missing from a tree in his front yard, only for a neighbor to say, "Oh no, that was Edward Scissorhands." According to the latest update, victims submitted their surveillance footage to the police, who were working to identify the suspect. The perpetrator's possible motive for cutting random people's branches remains a mystery. However, it seemed as though the frequency of the deviant cutting was increasing, and Scissorhands was still at large when the story last made headlines in October of 2022.
7. GoFundMe Scam. In 2017, partners in crime Caitlin McClure and Mark D'Amico were accused of spending more than $400,000 that they claimed they were raising for a homeless veteran in New Jersey on GoFundMe. The couple met Johnny Bobbitt when McClure's car broke down on the highway. Bobbitt was homeless, but he gave the pair his last $20 so they could get their car fixed. The story quickly went viral, showcasing the man's incredible generosity. and McClure and D'Amico set up a GoFundMe page in order to pay Bobbitt back. People were quick to donate to the cause. Little did they know the couple was pocketing the cash. However, their get-rich-quick scheme didn't turn out the way they hoped, and their home was raided by the police. A BMW was seen being towed away from their residence, and it was discovered that the two of them had gone on lavish vacations using the money they claimed was meant for Bobbitt. The Good Samaritan filed a lawsuit against McClure and D'Amico, claiming that they had spent over half of what was earned for him on themselves. The couple told investigators that they found out that Bobbitt had spent some of the money on drugs, so they didn't think he should have it. They even said that they still believed they did a good thing, and that if they were given the chance, they'd do it all over again. It wasn't until later that the alleged homeless man with a big heart was discovered to be in on the plot from the beginning. He only posed as a Good Samaritan in order to raise the money that they all agreed to share. In the end, Johnny Bobbitt was sentenced to 3 years of probation. The ringleader of the operation, Mark D'Amico, was given 5 years for the crime and is concurrently serving another 27 months for an unrelated federal wire fraud charge. Caitlin McClure was sentenced to 1 year and a day in prison for her role in the online scam. 6. Anything for love. A girl who killed her parents in Compton, California, with her boyfriend in 2011 showed no remorse for her actions in court. Cynthia Alvarez and Giovanni Gallardo were a young couple in love, but Cynthia's parents didn't approve of their relationship. The pair met at Dominguez High School in 2010 when they were both enrolled into the school's special education program. Cynthia was diagnosed with a learning disability, and Giovanni had an IQ of 57, according to the Los Angeles Times. When the two of them started dating, they fell hard for one another, and Cynthia claimed that Giovanni gave her all the love she never received from her parents. Cynthia said that she had been abused her whole life by her stepfather and mother. She accused them of beating her with anything they could find, and said she was expected to do the cooking, clean the house, and stay on top of the insulin treatment her mother required. However, her claims were denied by her family members. The couple's relationship started out like a fairy tale in Cynthia's eyes, but she admitted that later on, Giovanni began to show his dark side. The young man allegedly drugged Cynthia and also threatened her with guns and knives on multiple occasions, but they stayed together. They didn't like that Cynthia's parents didn't approve of them being together, and so the two of them began to plan their murder during fall of 2011. At the time of the incident, Giovanni was 16 and Cynthia was 15. On October 12th, Giovanni showed up at Cynthia's mobile home that she shared with her parents. He had a baseball bat, rubbing alcohol, and a mask. Her mother was preparing dinner when he arrived, and, quote, he waited for the perfect moment to strike, end quote. The young couple communicated back and forth using hand gestures and by writing on a spiral notebook that was later recovered at the scene of the crime. It seemed as though Cynthia was getting cold feet, and in the notebook they found that she wrote, "I'm too scared. I cannot do it." However, she was perfectly fine, allowing Giovanni to carry out the murder. She reportedly waited outside as he strangled her mother to death. The couple then bound the woman in tape and hid her body in Cynthia's bedroom. They then waited for her stepfather to come home. And when he walked through the door, Giovanni hit him in the face twice with his baseball bat. After he was on the floor, Giovanni stabbed him to death. It didn't take long for them to be arrested. They were taken into custody on October 21st. For their brutal crimes, both of the teenagers were sentenced to life behind bars. 5. COVID scam. In California in 2021, a couple was found to be responsible in a scheme involving a COVID relief fraud. When they were found out, they tried to flee their home, abandoning their 3 children, all under the age of 18. Marietta Tarabellian and her husband Richard A. Vazian were found guilty of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit bank fraud. They used stolen or fake IDs to submit falsified applications for around 150 federal pandemic relief loans for bogus businesses. The couple also sent in fraudulent payroll records and tax forms to the Small Business Administration and to lenders, according to federal prosecutors. Marietta and Richard, along with Richard's brothers and 5 other co-conspirators, spent the money they earned to purchase mansions all over Southern California. They also bought furniture, gold coins, luxury watches, a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, and diamonds. When the scheme was discovered by police and the guilty party was convicted, they were forced to forfeit 3 of the homes and their bank accounts, along with $450,000. Richard was the mastermind behind the whole operation and was sentenced to 17 years behind bars. Marietta was given only 6 years in prison. However, the couple never planned on serving any time. Around Labor Day in 2021, they both cut their electronic tracking bracelets off their ankles and fled from police. Initially, the pair couldn't be found, and the FBI offered up a reward of $20,000 for anyone who could help them track the couple down. Richard and Marietta's life on the run was short-lived, though, and in January of 2022, they were discovered at a villa they had rented in Montenegro. Marietta was arrested at a hair salon, and Richard was apprehended at a hotel just a few miles away. The couple is currently awaiting extradition, which could happen any day now. Richard has apparently applied for political asylum, but it's unlikely he'll be given the luxury. 4. Bonnie and Clyde wannabes. Tyler Terry and Adrian Simpson have been compared to the infamous criminal couple Bonnie and Clyde for their cross-country crime spree, spanning from South Carolina to Missouri in 2020. The duo chalked up dozens of charges, including 5 murders. They also wounded 3 more men in separate shootings. During their crime spree, the pair led Max Dorsey, the Chester County Sheriff, and his deputies on a high-speed chase, driving about 100 miles per hour, or 161 kilometers per hour. According to court documents, Simpson was the driver of a 2020 Mitsubishi Mirage, and Terry fired at officers from the passenger seat, shooting 3 patrol vehicles in the process. The couple's crime wave centered around 3 dates: May 2nd, May 15th, and May 17th. Their goal was to hit unsuspecting victims as quickly as possible, and then flee the scene. They began their felonious rampage by killing each of their former lovers in their home state of South Carolina. However, any victims who got in the way were considered free game and were also targeted in their attacks. They then attempted to escape by driving across the country. No motive has been stated in connection to the couple's crimes, but it seemed like they really just wanted to hurt as many people as they could in the short amount of time they had. Simpson and Terry were arrested after the shootout with police and are currently in jail on no bond as they wait for their sentencing. 3. Attempted kidnapping. In 2020, a couple from Atlanta stole a 1-year-old boy with the intent to raise the child as their own. The infant's mother tried to put up a fight, but the criminals threatened her with a gun and stole her baby. The case was described by law enforcement as an, quote, extremely rare and random kidnapping, end quote. The woman, Leslie Barrera, was out with her son that Saturday afternoon when she was confronted by Maynard Dario Valera Zuniga and his wife, Kristen Nicole. When they tried to take her child, Leslie fought them tooth and nail. She managed to steal the man's gun and even attempted to shoot him with it, but the weapon didn't fire. Amidst all the chaos, Kristen, who was wearing a disguise to make her look like a man, grabbed the baby and the 2 of them jumped back into their vehicle and drove away. Barrera chased the kidnappers on foot, but wasn't able to catch up with them. Apparently, the troubled couple attempted to take another child in the area that same day, and it was reported to the police. Their descriptions were given to law enforcement by witnesses, and they were later arrested for the crime when they were pulled over by officers in Carroll County. Thankfully, Barrera's son was returned to her unharmed. Both of the suspects were charged with kidnapping, and Maynard Dario received extra charges for battery and aggravated assault. At the moment, it's unclear what their sentencing was for the crimes. 2. Robbery at gunpoint. A young couple from England were responsible for robbing a man at gunpoint in May of 2016 near Banstead Station. The responsible party, 20-year-old Benjamin Bateman and 19-year-old Alana Kuti, supposedly threatened the man with a fake firearm and demanded that he give them his wallet and phone. Using the victim's credit card, the couple withdrew cash at a nearby ATM and then ordered a taxi to take them to Mitcham. Law enforcement officials were able to track the couple's movements after discovering the phone call they had placed to the taxi company, and later identified Kuti as a suspect in the crime. The woman was arrested on May 23rd for a separate incident, which allowed officers to question her regarding the robbery using an imitation firearm. Kuti's property was then searched, and evidence revealed that Bateman had been her partner in the crime. At the time of Kuti's hearing, Bateman had no idea that the police were onto him. He attended the hearing on May 26th to support his girlfriend, but was swiftly taken into custody for his involvement. Alana Kuti and Benjamin Bateman were both charged with possession of an imitation firearm and robbery. As a consequence, both were sentenced to 7 years in prison. 1. Pacific Point Murder. In May 2022, a man from Miami was looking to buy a Rolex when he was shot and killed in Lauderdale Lakes by a couple. 41-year-old Neil Rice and 21-year-old Alexis Lynn Rupert were charged for killing Emmanuel Antonio Tinoco. Tinoco was at the Pacific Point luxury apartments to purchase a Rolex watch from Rupert. The two of them had driven together to the complex, and both of them entered the building. However, when Tinoco and Rupert were about to get back into the car after their transaction, 2 men with guns approached the vehicle on either side. The man on the passenger side began to fire at Tinoco, successfully shooting him 5 times. However, a resident close by captured the entire murder on video, and it showed the 2 men and Rupert running away from the scene of the crime. It seemed as though the woman was in on the scheme, and an investigation into the matter quickly began. It was later revealed that Rupert had been illegally subletting her apartment, and Rice often stayed there. It's believed that the two of them had a romantic relationship that led them down a twisted path. During a quick scan of the suspects' Instagram accounts, investigators were able to find proof that Rice and Tinoco knew each other before the incident. They found a photo of the 2 men at a Miami nightclub together just 4 months before he was killed. Rupert also knew the victim, and text messages from her phone showed that she met Tinoco through her work as an escort. When police found enough evidence to suggest that Rupert and Rice had worked together in the murder, they tracked the 2 of them down and brought them in for questioning. When Rupert was interviewed, she refused to talk, but Rice claimed she was an escort who met her clients at the Pacific Point apartment. When police spoke with Rice, he initially denied any involvement in the murder, but DNA from the crime scene and cell phone tracking records told a different story. Apparently, messages between the victim and Rice in September of 2021 revealed that Tinoco had sold one of Rice's guns without his permission. This piece of evidence was assumed to be a possible motive for the crime by investigators. As of now, the guilty pair are waiting for their sentencing and are being held at Broward County Jail.
Number 9. Stephen Allwine. In 2016, FBI agents discovered evidence that someone was trying to order a hit on a married middle-aged Christian woman named Amy Allwine, who lived in Minnesota with her husband, Stephen. The feds came across the request for Amy's murder while monitoring a site called Besa Mafia, which offers to hurt and kill people for a price, but has never been known to actually act on its promises. They paid the Allwines a visit, and the couple said they had no idea who might want Amy dead. All they could do was be vigilant. A few months after that first visit from the FBI, Amy was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head. At first, authorities thought she took her own life, but they soon began to suspect Stephen of killing his wife. In addition to discovering that he was seeking affairs on Ashley Madison, they speculated that Stephen saw murder as a better alternative to divorce, which was frowned upon in the family's church. As a church elder, it could damage his position. The person who wanted Amy dead paid $6,000 in Bitcoin to Besa Mafia and gave the website details on her routine and movements. But the hit never happened, and prosecutors believed Stephen eventually decided to just carry out the crime himself. They accused him of drugging her before he shot her. Stephen was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. To pretty much anyone but him, the evidence against him points overwhelmingly to his guilt. But he maintains that he was set up by a high-tech mastermind. Number 8. Chloe Ayling. 20-year-old British model Chloe Ayling was in Italy for a photo shoot in 2017 when she was abducted by some criminals, tranquilized, driven to a remote farmhouse, and held for ransom. Her captors told her that they were going to sell her into slavery on the dark web if someone didn't pay the 300,000 euros, $315,300 US payment they were demanding from her family. The abduction's mastermind, Lucas Herber, convinced Ayling that he too was being held captive in a way. He said he was part of an organization of Romanian traffickers called the Black Death and that he wanted to leave the group. But the only way to do it was by coming up with the ransom. Herber said there were Black Death agents all around them, watching their every move. Ayling began to believe his claims, and she also knew that she had to stay on his good side if she wanted any hope of being released. After 6 days, Herber dropped her off at the British consulate in Milan, where she reported the kidnapping to authorities. Many people thought the abduction was a hoax due to inconsistencies in Ayling's story, and because the story is so complex that it almost seems far-fetched. It didn't help that Herber claimed that Ayling agreed to the plot for the potential financial gain, but investigators deemed her claims credible and arrested Lucas Herber and his brother Michal, who helped carry out the kidnapping. They're serving 12 and 5-year prison sentences. Number 7. Suji Liu. When Suji Liu went on the dark web in early 2019 in search of an illegal toxin and equipment for handling it, she had no idea that she was actually in touch with an FBI agent posing as a purveyor of illicit goods. She placed an order for 10 milliliters of the substance, along with some gloves, a mask, and an apron. Liu drove from her home in Winnipeg to North Dakota to the designated pickup site, where plainclothes agents were standing by to observe. Federal agents arrested her once she retrieved the packages. Right away, Liu admitted that she knew what she did was wrong. She pleaded guilty to one count of attempting to acquire a chemical weapon in exchange for getting 2 other charges dropped. Liu was sentenced to 6 years in prison and served part of her sentence in North Dakota until she could be relocated to Canada. Number 6. Christy Felkins. In 2016, a single mother of 3 from Nevada named Christy Felkins went on the dark web hoping to find a hitman to kill her ex-husband. She contacted Besa Mafia with her order and paid around $6,000 worth of Bitcoin for the deadly deed. Felkins specified that she wanted her ex's death to look like a mugging gone wrong and specified a time frame during which she would be traveling, adding that it would give her the perfect alibi. Not only is Besa Mafia a fake website that just takes people's money, the FBI was watching as the website's administrators procrastinated the murder. Someone uninvolved with the website had come across the messages and passed them on, and they began monitoring the situation. Felkins persisted with her request for them to get the job done, stating that she would be willing to pay more money once she got her ex-husband's life insurance payout. She was also eager to have the murder carried out while the former couple's kids were in her care, and before they went to visit their dad. And she said that if her ex's new girlfriend got harmed during the commission of the crime, she was fine with it. After her arrest, Felkins admitted to investigators that she stood to profit from her ex's death, but that it wasn't her primary motivation. Describing him as a master manipulator, she said that he was abusive in many different ways, including mentally, physically, and emotionally, and claimed that he wanted to take her kids away from her. Felkins pleaded guilty to hire for murder and faces up to 10 years in federal prison. Number 5. Diana Marie Stinson. In 2021, the FBI caught wind that someone in South Florida was really adamant about having a woman killed. The customer, who was later identified as 51-year-old Diana Marie Stinson, had paid $12,000 in Bitcoin to a dark web market offering murder-for-hire services. She wanted her ex-boyfriend's wife eliminated from the picture, and when it didn't happen as promised, she continued to contact the website. At one point, Stinson sent the site's administrators a message requesting for them to reassign the job to someone who has a history of getting jobs done, adding that she needed it committed ASAP. An FBI agent reached out to her, pretending to be a hitman from the site. He asked Stinson to send even more Bitcoin to buy a gun, and she did. In the meantime, agents visited the woman that the suspect wanted dead and let her know about the threat. She lived in fear for her life while authorities worked to get to the bottom of the case. The FBI arrested Stinson, and she ultimately owned up to her actions. She pleaded guilty to murder for hire and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The intended victim said that she knew Stinson through church and was unaware of any problems between them. Stinson apologized to the woman, saying, "I am truly very sorry that my brokenness could bring discord to your family." Number 4. Whitney Franks. When 26-year-old Whitney Franks discovered that both she and a co-worker were having an affair with their manager at a sporting goods store in the UK, she set out to remove the other woman from the picture. The manager the two women were seeing had a long-term partner and 2 children, which should have been Whitney's first clue that he wasn't cut out for monogamy. But she was determined to have as much of him to herself as possible, so she went on the dark web and posted an ad offering to pay £1,000, $1,225 or more, to anyone willing to kill someone for her. Whitney included a link to the victim's Facebook profile in the ad. In addition to trying to have the victim murdered, she continued to obsess over her manager. She showed up at his house one day and asked him why he was leaving home at night, something she would only know if she was watching him. Whitney also emailed the man and asked him to give her another chance. In the meantime, a BBC journalist spotted Whitney's ad seeking a hitman and contacted authorities. They moved the intended victim to a safe house while they investigated the matter. Suspecting that she knew who wanted her dead, the woman pointed detectives in the right direction. Whitney was soon arrested. She admitted to posting the ad, but claimed that she didn't really want to kill anyone. During her trial, the court heard about how the man that she and the victim competed over purposely played the women off against each other and seemed to enjoy creating animosity between them. And it seems as though Whitney took the bait and became overwhelmed with jealousy. She was found guilty of the hire for murder plot and received a 12-year prison sentence. Number 3. Ronald Ilg. While investigating the dark web's murder-for-hire industry in 2020, journalists discovered some troubling information about a Washington man who seemed pretty serious about having not 1, but 2 people attacked. They turned the leads over to the FBI, and the evidence led them to a doctor from Spokane named Ronald Ilg. Records of Ilg's chats with website administrators revealed that he wanted one woman to be assaulted and for another to be kidnapped, assaulted, and extorted. He sent a nearly $2,000 Bitcoin payment for the assault in 2020, specifying that he was paying to have the woman's hands broken, and shared a photo of her along with her name, address, and other personal details. The following year, Ilg sought to have his estranged wife abducted, drugged, and assaulted in what he described as a rush job. The details got even more disturbing as he described how he wanted the victim to be kidnapped for 5 to 7 days and given 2 daily doses of heroin. He said he wanted the woman to be taught how to inject the heroin herself and to receive videos and photos of her doing it. Ilg also requested some dirty heroin needles with her DNA in them. He told the website that the assailant needed to strongly urge the victim to stop all court proceedings within 2 weeks of her release, to return to your husband and the chaos you created, and to tell absolutely no one about the abduction. And he wanted her to know that her and her family's well-being depended on her following these orders, stating it would be unfortunate if her older boy became addicted to heroin, or her dad be severely beaten, or her dog be slaughtered. As a guideline, Ilg urged for any and all persuasion to be used. He sent thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin over, but instead of an injured ex, he received a visit from the FBI. Ilg ultimately pleaded guilty to transmitting threats in interstate commerce and is facing 5 to 8 years in prison. Number 2. Cheng Lei. Ricin is a poison made from castor beans that can be deadly. As obscure as it sounds, it's something that 22-year-old Cheng Lei wanted to get his hands on badly enough to seek it on the dark web in 2015. He found someone willing to fulfill it, paid for the substance, and went to pick it up on the scheduled delivery date. He was unaware that the FBI was onto his plans. They shipped him a bottle of fake ricin and observed as he picked up the package and took it back to his house in New York. He was soon arrested. Prosecutors admit that they don't know for sure what the young man's motive was, but they were pretty sure that he was motivated by greed and saw ricin as a way to kill people while raising minimal suspicions. They accused Cheng Lei of buying the poison with plans to kill countless unnamed victims and benefit materially. He was convicted of attempting to possess a biological toxin for use as a weapon. While prosecutors urged for a sentence of 15 to 17 years, Lei's attorney asked for a 10-year term, stating that his client got enraptured in material culture and wanting what is offered without having to put in the effort to get it. The judge sentenced Lei to 16 years. Number 1. Scott Quinn Burkett. After connecting online through an anime fan page in 2020 and talking for a few months, a woman flew to Los Angeles to meet Scott Quinn Burkett. She spent 3 days with him, but they didn't have the chemistry she'd hoped for. In fact, she would later describe him as aggressive. The woman tried to break things off after the visit, but Burkett continued to contact her obsessively, pressuring her to continue the relationship. If she didn't respond on one media platform or account, he reached out to her through another. It became so overbearing that one of the woman's family members contacted Burkett's father and asked him to intervene. It seemed to work. Burkett soon messaged the woman saying that he would no longer contact her. A few days later, he tried to order a hit on her through a site on the dark web called Internet Killers. A tipster told the FBI about Burkett's request to have the woman murdered. He paid $13,000 in Bitcoin for the job and specified that he wanted it to look like an accident. Just as Burkett thought the hit was about to be carried out, the FBI arrested him. He was found guilty of using interstate facilities to commit murder for hire and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Thanks for watching. Would you rather find out that someone was trying to hire a hitman against you on the dark web, or have a friend completely stop speaking to you without any explanation and no willingness to give one when you ask? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.